Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Curious Coaches Lemonade Stand with yours truly, Dr. Gina. And I'm very blessed to say we have an awesome guest with us in our studio here today. So if you haven't been here before, thank you so much for stopping by. This is your virtual neighborhood community third space where you can come to sip, squeeze, and always savor with style. A little spot where you can drop by, maybe hear some fresh insights, maybe get a little bit of inspiration, and in any case, something that you can connect and relate to, and hopefully will quench you a little bit as you move through your day. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to none other than my business partner, Amy. And Amy, I'm going to hand over to you to say a few words about yourself to our audience.
Thanks, Gina. Really appreciate you having me. Such an honor, and Milo as well in the background. Can't forget him. So, hi everyone. My name is Amy O. Young, co-founder with Gina of the Inclusive Leadership Studio. I'm a mindful leadership and executive coach, a reflective writer, a burnout survivor who deeply believes that calm and chaos can really coexist. My work is all about helping people, especially women, leaders, feel seen, heard, grounded, and clear on really what matters most to them. I bring a lot of grounding energy, deep presence, and just a right dose or a slight dose of playful rebellion to my coaching sessions, and I'm here to hold space for the parts of us that are tired, questioning, maybe quietly screaming at times, and really working with a lot of folks who are high achieving, high functioning, but exhausted, stretched very thin, and sometimes disconnected from themselves. So I'm really passionate about helping people reclaim their voice, right? Pause with the purpose and intentionality and remember that they don't have to do it all and they don't have to do it alone.
Wow, thank you, Amy. That was such a great intro. And I'm sure you all can see what drew us together just from Amy's vibe, just from how she emanates and crosses together words like calm and chaos and rebellion. I mean, obviously we're gonna vibe. So so glad to have you here today, Amy. And I'm really
Thanks.
glad that you brought up the topic of what your clients are dealing with today. What proportion, like what percentage roughly would you guesstimate of your clients are women?
Say about 75% are
Yeah,
women.
that's a good portion. I would say it's even higher for myself, actually. So
Mm,
I'm curious to know, in these times that are really trying, there's a lot on everyone's plates, but I I would argue there's often a disproportionate amount on women's plates, and a lot of that
hmm
has to do with a lot of structural things, a lot of societal expectations and norms. So there's just a lot of stress kind of compounded with other stresses. What do you find your clients are struggling with right now? What kind of issues are they bringing to you?
Yeah, so they are caregiving, whether it's for their own children, whether it's for elder care, whether it's managing the household. They are trying to manage and integrate their work amongst all of that. They're managing their own health issues. I mean, right before we were just chatting about perimenopause, right? And something that we need to be able to normalize those conversations as well. They're managing their own mental health issues, right? Not just the physical aspect of their health, but the unseen aspect of some of the disabilities that we talk about as well. So they're very vulnerable in this space, and they're also juggling the work. Many of them are practitioners in either HR or L&D, so they're managing the company's culture as well and leading through all the different changes and with a lot of the political and socioeconomic issues that are going on across the globe. Like our world is on fire, Gina, and you have women trying to manage everything and trying to do the right thing and feeling guilty about taking a break and taking time for themselves. And many of them don't know that their burnout is actually being disguised as high functioning. And that's what I'm seeing a lot is like, okay, well, I'm seeing a therapist, I'm working out and I'm checking things off on my list. And yet that exhaustion and overwhelm is what's actually beneath all of that doing.
Yeah. No, thank you for pointing that out. And, just in case anyone was wondering, HR, I'm sure lots of people know it's human resources. L&D is learning and development. And when you think about women who are in those kinds of corporate roles, especially, those are support roles. So those are roles where they are supporting, developing, helping grow people within their organizations while they're doing that, perhaps at home with a family or for their communities or maybe
Mhm.
for their elders. Like there's so many different ways in which they're giving and giving. And, I want to draw attention to what you said about I'm doing all the things. I'm working out, I'm going to therapy, I have Amy as my coach, and that itself becomes a tick box exercise. What do you how do you deal with women who are saying, "Well, I'm doing all these things and I'm still feeling stressed?" How do you kinda dive beneath the surface there?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So, a common question that I ask when they hit that wall and they're in tears during the session is, what do you need right now? And many of them, when they hear that question and I pause and hold that space, they have no idea. Many of them are like, no one's ever asked me that before. I,
Surprised to hear that.
right? Like,
They're always attending to others' needs.
exactly. They're like, I don't know what I need.
It's as if
And
all
that's,
those things they're doing are things they've been told they need, as opposed to
mhm,
things that they felt inside them that they need, and that's why it's feeling like just another thing to tick off on a laundry list.
exactly. Whether it's cultural background, familial, societal norms, whatever it might be, like who's that voice that's telling you, like, you've got to be and do all of these things?
Yeah, yeah.
Like whose voice is that? And that's a lot of times we explore and discover like around needs and then who's actually driving all of that behavior.
And when you offer them that space to be vulnerable, how do they react to it? How do they respond?
It's almost like a wave of relief and release because the body keeps score. And I talked about this most recently on a webinar that you and I were both on with an Adri, is like I was in tears, driving towards like my dad's home and visiting him, right? Like so when I speak to my clients and I see that same wave and I have that lived experience as, a recovering burnout woman who's trying to juggle all these things is like they feel a sense of relief, right? That like I'm holding that space. I'm allowing them that like it's okay to go and get a box of tissues right now. Take 5 minutes to do that. Take another minute to get that glass of water. Like we have 45 minutes together and that time they really appreciate that space and time where it can be just sitting together in silence and they might just need to let it all out and let that clear from their system and then I'm like, okay, well, what are those tears telling you right now?
It's so powerful. I mean, the fact that you have experienced it firsthand and therefore can completely connect to and relate to the kinds of, conflicting feelings that they're dealing with. I have, and this, I guess, a two-part question is, um,
Mhm.
do you find yourself, I guess, self-disclosing, sharing with them, I know what this is like. Um, and also,
Mm.
how do you hold the space for them and I guess not become triggered by your own sort of past burnout trauma?
Great question. So I'll try to answer the first one. Is being able to, sorry, what was that first question again? And my mind is on that second question.
Go to the second one first then. The first one
Okay.
is really about self-disclosing. Like, do you find that you share with them, "I've been through this too. I've experienced this type of, chaotic feelings, this type of I'm at the edge,
Yeah.
someone needs to pull me back."
I don't normally self-disclose during a coaching session unless they ask me, because I feel like it interrupts their experience and what they're going through. Because
Yeah,
I feel like my role as a coach is to hold space for them, right? It's not about me dumping and, sharing all of my woes with my client. That's what I have a mentor coach for. And that's what I have, people like you in my community for. So, I mean, I definitely don't share my experiences unless my client maybe asks me about my experience or how I've dealt with it. But even then, I'm going to turn it back onto them first and say, like, okay, well, how would you like to cope with this? How would you like to explore this? Because we're so different, right? Like, how they cope with stress and how they deal with their life is going to be so different than how I approach things. So I would rather partner with them to discover, methods and approaches and strategies that are going to work for them. Like, for example, meditation and journaling works for me. That's not going to work for,
don't.
right? That's not
We
gonna
we
work
know
for
I'm
a
not the
lot of
greatest at these
people,
things.
right? Like, that's not gonna work for many people, right? Like, as I was sharing earlier, I was listening to you and Star, and it's like, hey, if wind in your hair at 100 kilometers an hour on your bike is your form of meditation, like, I'm all for it. So, like, who am I to tell my clients? Like, that defeats the purpose of coaching. Like, who am I to tell them that, you must journal, right? Like, that's if that doesn't work for you, then discover something that will, right? Maybe it's having a cup of tea or coffee on your back porch with your favorite mug.
I love your response to that, Amy. I think it's really beautiful because I think that's what really differentiates an experience of chatting with your friend or venting about your problems versus speaking with a professional coach is that we will
Hmm.
hold that space and we won't dive into the me too, which is a very natural human thing. It's a part of us to reach out and connect and say, yeah, 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 me too. I know what that's like, and to share your own experience. And that's all cool when you're chatting with your friend, over a glass of wine or a coffee.
Hmm.
Absolutely. There's a time and place for that. When you're with your professional coach, I would agree with you. Self-disclosure when asked, right? I do love that when asked, you won't absolutely refuse to share an experience with them. But corny as it is, I still do the okay, I'm taking my coaching hat off for a second
Yes,
and I'll
I
tell
do
you my
that as well.
experience. And okay, now we're back in. What do you want to do? How do you want to move forward? And I think that's incredibly important because especially when women, anyone, any client, any of us are in that vulnerable space of feeling those big feelings of, perhaps frustration and at the end of our rope, it's so easy to just reach out and say, tell me what to do. Tell me what you've done. Give me advice. And we all know that's not going to result in the most powerful or sustainable solution because it's not going to be, as you said, tailored to you. We're so different from person to person. So I
Hmm.
really appreciate the way that you approach that as a professional coach. And
Yeah.
the second part now, let me let you take over for that.
Remind me again what the second part
Yeah,
was?
that was me throwing it over because I'm like, what was the second part of it? That's a great question. What was the second part? I had asked you about disclosure, and then, um, it might have been just how you're holding the space without getting triggered.
Yes. Okay, so how I hold the space without getting triggered is I need to be very grounded throughout the day and being very grounded between my sessions. So I've learned this the hard way, right? From the beginning of my coaching career to now, and I'm still learning, is not overbooking sessions throughout the day, making sure that I'm eating, I have a lunch prepared, I have space between my sessions, and sometimes I do need to, if I do get triggered, let's say someone is having a very similar experience that I've had, I will need to wash my face with cold water. Like, I need to be able to physically wash that away and then put some cream on and then start up my session again. I find that I don't really do that often in the past 5 years or so. Like, when I first started and I felt like I really wanted to jump in and give advice, because that's what we tend to do, is we wanna give advice, and as a coach, you learn how to sit back and actually coach and not give advice. So it's staying grounded with my own practices, like making sure that I'm eating, I'm hydrated, I've had enough sleep. Do I need a power nap? Do I need to pet Milo of minutes before I come back to a session, do a couple of squats? You'll see I have my yoga mat behind me that Milo is lying on. I'll do like maybe 5 squats or some push-ups or a downward dog before I re-engage and sit back down and engage with the next client.
I love that. I'm hearing routines and rituals, and they might evolve and change over time, but there
Mhm.
are things that you know you need to do. Part of your, I'm hearing mental hygiene, taking care of yourself so that you can take care of
Yeah.
others. And I think that's a really critical message. I know with my clients, that's probably, at the core of so much of what we're working through right now is that concept of however you want, whichever metaphor you want to use to explain it, right? You can't pour from an empty pitcher. You need to actually look after yourself in order to look after others.
Mhm.
And so it makes absolute sense to me that you're telling us you need to have your self-care rituals and practices in order to be ready to support your clients. That makes total sense to me. And I don't know if I've codified them quite the way you have, but I do have certain things that I will do in between clients or, almost ways to shake it off. I call it cutting the cords
Mm.
when I'm between clients. And I know I've just had one that may be triggering for me that may have been very heavy and, maybe I have another one shortly where I'm going into a meeting or some other kind of setting where I need to bring a different kind of persona than where I'm at right now. And yeah, I think the basics of what you mentioned are so important, making sure that you're hydrated, making sure that, your body has had some movement, that it's had enough oxygen. I'm trying to learn to breathe better. Breath work, doing them at the end of my podcast.
Yeah.
That's self-care for me too. I'm of course wanting
Yeah.
to offer to my audience, but recognizing I need to do that and that's not a practice I regularly incorporated and recognizing how much it helps to just learn to breathe properly is incredible to me.
Yeah, I love that when you talk about breath work or breathing, I just love to take that deep, cleansing, nurturing breath. And if you're okay with it, I would love to talk about like this retreat
Yes.
that we've created
Yes, please, because that is
because,
a whole deep nurturing breath for a whole weekend. That's exactly what it is.
and this is why I'm so excited about this with you is like these conversations that we're having, the conversations that we're having one on one with our clients. They're exactly why we created the Rooted and Rising retreat. Like it's not about fixing burnout, it's about interrupting that cycle. So it's a space to pause, get rooted again, and really remember what truly matters and what's important to each woman walking their life, their space, right? Like we mentioned, it's not about telling people what to do. It's us holding that space so that they can gain clarity. And it doesn't come from doing more. It comes from like giving yourself that permission to stop, listen inward, and to choose a different path or to make a different choice
Yes.
for yourself.
I want to add, Amy, that us creating that retreat, there are moments in which I sit and reflect on the work that we're doing to create that space. I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I think for both of us, the experience of creating the agenda for this retreat that's going to run from Friday afternoon to a Sunday afternoon was itself an exercise in our restraint, our need to create space. Like, do you remember when we first started iterating and thinking about, okay, so what's the schedule going to look like? And we're putting things in. It's like, wait a second, we can't pack the schedule. The whole point is to not have a packed schedule.
Yeah.
And how many times, we stop to remind each other, no, we don't need a session there. What we need is some outdoor time. No, we don't need a session there. What we need is some space for socializing or connecting or wandering
Mhm.
through the beautiful surrounding forest area and just taking it in. Nope, we don't need that time for a workshop. We just need to go outside and breathe.
Yeah.
It's in itself, it's been an exercise, I can speak for myself of just
Mhm.
pulling back and saying, "No, what do you really, really need?" Stop filling it with what you think would be great, and instead recognize
100%.
the space and how much that is of value.
Yes, and that rest is productive and inaction can be action at times. And that's what the space is for. And that's what we had done a lot of learning for ourselves about like, yes, we want to offer all of these tools and strategies. And yet we're like, okay, well, where's that free time that everyone needs to decompress and to connect and make that human connection and have that community with other like-minded women and learn from each other as well.
So let's tell them a little bit about what it's like. So it's going to be located in the beautiful Halliburton area of
Hmm.
the Algonquin Highlands of Ontario. And it's the last weekend in September. So I believe that's Friday the 26th to Sunday the 28th, which if you are,
Hmm.
anywhere in the Ontario region or have visited at that time of year, it's gorgeous because we'll catch the fall colors coming in. It's a really meaningful moment to be doing something called Rooted and Rising because it's a moment of nature's transition as well. So you'll see those
Yes.
colors changing, but I guess the silver lining of global warming is we have the warmth at the end of September more and more that we didn't used to. So it'll be probably a little crisp at night, but the daytimes I'm sure are still going to be quite comfortable to be outside and be out and about.
Yeah, and we're gonna have some nourishing food, and we're gonna, have like some breath work involved as well in the evening, just very restorative and nurturing. There's gonna be leisure time and, some
Taking yoga with
sessions.
Amy.
More like
Time to
very,
take your
very
yoga with me.
very gentle and restorative, depending on who shows up in the space, right? Like that's the magic of it is that depending on who shows up, I love being able to tailor something on the fly for people depending on what they need. And tarot sessions with Dr. Gina and coaching with us as well. And it's just such a beautiful property.
It really
Um,
is. The Brooksong property is gorgeous. It is a retreat center that is made for holistic wellness. And Amy and I can attest to the fact that once you didn't have to step over the threshold. Once we drove into the area, you could feel that wave of calm just wash over you.
yeah.
And it was such a peaceful and serene vibe. I feel like we were halfway involved in choosing that place before we even went through the front door.
Yeah. We're like, okay, we're doing this. We're gonna be here. It's meant to be.
Retreat rooted and rising, Amy. What does that conjure for you? What does that offer to our fellow women warriors who are looking for that rest and respite from their lives and, looking for that chance to renew themselves?
Yeah, I mean, for me, rooted and rising, I really think about trees and forest and nature and grounding ourselves. And these are women and people who have signed up already. Like they are like fully capable, right? Like this is a enhancement and a refresher for them to almost rediscover and renew and reconnect with themselves so that you can have that abundance, to have that empowerment to walk away with more confidence and feeling like, okay, like I feel supported, and then I have that self trust and clarity for myself to be able to move forward with purpose and alignment. And then you also have a community of um, people who can cheer you on as well.
It's really important too, especially if you feel like maybe everyone around you, it feels as if they need something from you right now. And it
Yeah.
would just be wonderful to be somewhere where you can, I'll throw in another re word because we're all about those right now. Recalibrate is what comes to mind for me. Just kind of to give the body and the mind that reset. When you said bringing clarity, I think that really strikes a chord for me as well. When I think of rooted and rising, I think of remembering who we are, who we truly are, not who we need to be for
Mhm.
this setting or who we're supposed to be for these people, but who we truly are. And kind of really, digging into the ground. You might even do it literally. It's a kind of property just going out barefoot in the grass would be lovely. Or getting your toes into the dirt and
Yeah.
watching the beaver make its dam would be awesome. But
Yeah.
also rising in that you have the opportunity once rooted to then get clear and think, well, how do I want to evolve? What's really important to me? What really matters, right? To just reset on your priorities as well, because I know with my clients, that's a big one. Just so much swirl, so much chaos going on around them. It's hard to discern what is really important. And they don't have the time to sit and reflect on it. And so I'm just going to keep going in this hamster wheel. And so this is it. This is literally a weekend to pluck yourself out of that hamster wheel
Yep.
and get out of the cage altogether and go see the big wide world and enjoy it with other like-minded souls. And I think that is so needed today.
And as I was listening to you, it's another reword that came up is reinvesting in yourself. Like, when was the last time you invested in yourself, or that we've invested in ourselves in like a small or a big way? And when I hear you say stepping off, like so many of my clients say, like, oh, okay, I just need help with time management. I just need help to, figure out my calendar and my schedule. And that's almost like a symptom of what's truly happening beneath the surface
Yeah,
is
I
like,
always perk up my ears when I hear I need to manage my time. I'm like, "Ooh, we're gonna dig into that one."
yeah, exactly. It's not a lot of the times it's not about managing time or squeezing more into your day. It's making decisions differently or thinking about the situation that you're in from a different perspective and how you can approach it differently so that you can take yourself out of the churn and also approach that churn perhaps differently with a new set of lens.
Yes, I'm gonna keep going with it, is the reframe, right? We do that all the time as coaches, help shift your mindset and your perspective to reframe things. And I know a reframe question I'm really digging lately, 'cause I'm into these, and I'm very much known and talk a lot about the switch from, why did this happen to me to why did this happen for me. The one I'm really
Mhm.
digging and feeling right now is thinking about all of your responsibilities and all of the have tos. When you have time to take out for yourself, like this retreat, to actually rest and rejuvenate yourself and your soul, that makes the reframing a little easier, a little more possible to instead think not why or I have to do this thing. Like I have to, go on this business trip or I have to take my kid to their soccer game. Instead, I get to. I'm working on that one. That's a personal
Yeah.
project right now. I get to go on this trip. I
Yeah.
get to take my kid to their soccer game. That's a huge shift.
Mhm.
And I will acknowledge that can't happen if you don't give yourself the space to actually recognize how to reframe, how to shift those priorities, and that it's not just a calendar management thing, that it's an energy management and a prioritization
Yes.
of what's really important to you.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been asking me, like, how are you so calm? Like, how are you dealing with everything that you're dealing with and you're so calm? And I'm like, well, you don't see the nutty side of me, first of
Always say it's the
all.
duck underwater. That you don't know what's going on under the top surface. Okay, it's all kinds.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm just gliding through. But and at the same time, what we're talking about is a practice. It's an intentional practice. The reframe is a practice. Mindfulness is a practice. The intentionality, whether it be in leadership within your work or your life, that's a practice. So it's just like anything else. If you want to go to the gym or if you want to pick up a new hobby, you need to practice.
Mhm.
It's like you lose, like if you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
Yes.
So if you don't consistently reframe, like to say, like, oh, wow, this is a business trip, like, how can I enjoy this business trip? Maybe I give myself a extra 5 hours to get to the airport and I'm going to enjoy my favorite drink at the bar
Yep.
or get my
Nice
favorite
meal
hot
with my book.
bevy.
Yep.
Exactly. And I'm gonna like put my feet up and sit in the lounge and relax. And that is part of the joy that you find in everyday moments. Like, yes, you are hustling for work and you can still enjoy your book and a nice drink in an airport.
I love it. That yes and is such a critical part of the reframe and definitely something that's going to be done on the retreat. And I love everything we've chatted about today, Amy, and I think it really highlights for me even because we haven't said it before, I'll say it again. We first of all created a retreat that we need. So, you know, don't think that we sat and thought, let's use some test cases of our clients and what they're struggling. We know we looked in the mirror, we talked to each other, and we're like, man, what do we need right now? And we know we need it, and we know our clients need it. We know a lot of women out there need it. So,
Yeah.
as someone who is an avid and told to be quite an addictive vacationer, I can say that this is a weekend that's not just, a vacation. It's not just time away. As you say, this is an investment in yourself. This is an opportunity to take time and space and come back richer, come back feeling like you can
Hmm.
see the great again in yourself,
Yeah.
in your life, see the opportunities and not, the less Eeyore and more Piglet. Here's my scientific experiential analysis. Less ER and more Piglet.
I love it. I love it. Right? It's like Elmo. Elmo's got like this like learned optimism about him too. So it's finding out how you can sustain all of that renewal and that shift in energy too.
Yes, the sustainment piece is huge because it's not,
Yeah.
again, just a getaway and you're enjoying that space. It's learning and gaining tools that you can practically apply so that you can continue to sustain mindfulness and a different, fresh approach that is going to just, rejuvenate your spirit when you return home.
Yeah.
So I'll be sure to put up on the screen details about our retreat and it's limited spots. We're down to 8. Is that right, Amy?
Yes, we're down to
8
8.
spots. Yep. So it's a bit of an elite experience, and we'd love
Yeah.
for you to consider joining us. You can always look for us on LinkedIn as well and connect with us there. Um,
Hmm.
but it's going to be a really beautiful experience, and we'd love to have you join us.
Yeah, can't wait. It's going to be beautiful.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being our guest today on the Lemonade Stand, the
Oh,
Curious
thanks
Coaches
for
Lemonade Stand.
having me.
Of
Such an
course.
honor. Such an
Oh,
honor.
It's an honor to have you here, Amy. It's an honor to be your business partner, as I'll always say. And to everyone who's been watching, I hope that something has resonated today. I hope it's been a little bit of a fresh squeeze for you, and it's given you a little bit of that thirst quench that you come to drop by and expect at the Curious Coaches Lemonade Stand. So until next time, as always, I will encourage you to make some real good lemonade out of all the lemons life throws at you, and that we'll be back next week to sip and squeeze and savor with style as we always do here. So until next time, I wish everyone a wonderful week and please be well. Thank you so much for dropping by.